Hey, I'm Sally Taylor and the creator of Consensus, and I just wanted to take a second to introduce you to Consenses Curriculum, which offers social emotional learning delivered through a multidisciplinary arts course. This course teaches skills in 7 different mediums: photography, music, dance, poetry, painting, sculpture, and set design, all while enhancing students' self-awareness and social awareness. The course was developed based on the teachings of an ancient fable, whereby 8 blind men venture out into the wilderness and stumble upon a giant elephant. Each blind man feels a different part and comes to a different conclusion about what the animal is. The blind man touching the elephant's tail thinks the elephant is a rope. The one touching the ear thinks it's a fan. The one with the tusk insists it's a spear. The one touching the trunk thinks it's a snake. The one feeling the leg thinks it's a tree trunk. The one feeling the back thinks it's a wall. And each, convinced of their own truth, they fight with one another until a wise king comes and says, "Stop fighting. You're each only feeling one tiny, tiny sliver of something giant that each of you can only explore a fragment of. You can't understand the wholeness of it. You need to find a way of listening to each other's differences and sharing your own perspectives without righteousness and without judgment. And in only this way will you understand the larger beast that stands before you." This fable shows the predicament of the human experience. Each of us get to explore only one tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of something giant, the beast that is reality. And yet with our limited understanding, we think, like the blind men, that we understand more of the whole than we do. And then we go about befriending people who agree with us and discrediting those who see it different, when so much more could be revealed if we just had the capacity to listen to one another and share our different experiences. Consensus is a curriculum that teaches this skill by helping students to see that they're each like a blind man. And while each of their versions of truth is magnificent and beautiful and unique, it's also limited and in need of others' differences to help them to see beyond the boundary of their limited perspectives. So, how does Consensus work? In 2012, I created my own elephant. I brought artists together from around the globe, asking them to interpret one another's art and translate it into their own medium in the vein of a game of telephone. So, for example, I gave a photograph to a musician and asked them to interpret what it meant to them and to write a song about it. Then I gave that song to a dancer, the dance to a poet, the poem to a perfumer, the perfume to a sculptor, the sculpture to a set designer. And at the end, after I'd done this again and again and again, 150 artists from around the world had participated in this global game of telephone through the senses. Now, none of the artists got to see further back into the chain reaction beyond the one piece that I supplied them with, and none of the artists got to know the identities of the other participants. And yet somehow, in each of these chains, a common thread seemed to evolve, suggesting to me and to others that despite our apparent separateness, perhaps we are all connected. Consensus Curriculum was created out of this model, and over the course of 18 lessons, students collaborate to create these interpretive chains, and in the process, learn tolerance and empathy and compassion through listening to others, not through their words, but through various art forms. So here's a breakdown of the Consensus Curriculum. In the first 2 classes, we teach students the elephant and the blind man fable and how to slow down their creative process to disclose the nuances of their worldviews. In the following classes, students are introduced to a new medium each week: photography, music, dance, sculpture, poetry, painting, and skills for self-expression in each. Do you have to be an artist to teach Consensus Curriculum? No. Why? Because I will be there, beside you, in our in-class teaching tutorials. So for example, in our photography module, where students are interpreting a word and translating their understanding of it into a photograph, I'll be there in your classroom with you, explaining how using different camera angles expresses different emotions. Or in your dance lesson, I'll be there showing how different shapes and qualities of movement affect viewers in different ways. Even if you're feeling intimidated about teaching painting, I'll be right beside you, teaching color value and saturation and how each color affects us differently. Throughout the course, students anonymously receive and interpret one another's work, exploring and translating each piece they receive into a new medium, and then handing them in to be passed along in the game of telephone. At the end of the course, students work together in groups to interpret chains as collective wholes, and then create 3D set designs from which to exhibit and share their work with their community. In addition to these in-class representations of their interpretive chains, we've created an online gallery where teachers can upload students' work to show not only how their class worked together, but how their work fits into the context of other schools participating in the same curriculum around the globe. In a world divided by blind men's competing and righteous points of view, Consensus is highly effective at spreading the message that each of our perspectives is equal and valid, helping us to better appreciate both the limitations and the unique values of our individual truths. Come, help us teach Consensus. You never knew that teaching could be this fun.